Hey, Angie.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the David T. Howard Go Team meeting, where we will follow the agenda as it is being emailed and publicly noticed. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Go Team. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. All members of the public present are here to observe quietly. For members of the Go Team, please identify yourself when you speak. I am pleased to call this meeting of the David T. Howard Go Team to order at 4:34. Our first order of business is to call roll. Our secretary, Ms. Baker, will now take the roll.
All right. Please respond present when your name is called. Kevin Maxwell.
Here.
Ben Abernathy.
Present.
Wendy Baker. I am present. Tanisha Poe.
Present.
Chelsea Schultz. We have her as absent. Jennifer Keenan.
Present.
Angela Lewis.
All
Janine Walker.
Present.
right.
Nice. Curtis Carmichael.
Present.
And Vincent Jones.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Baker, do we have a quorum?
I believe we do, sir. Yes.
All right, thank you. Our next order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you via email and on our website link on the school's website. Are there any changes to the agenda? All right, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve. That was Angie vote, sorry.
Second.
Okay. The motion was properly motioned by Ms. Lewis and seconded by Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
And so I shared the agenda just so, I just shared the screen just so that everybody sees it.
All right. All right, our next action item is to approve the previous minutes from the October meeting.
Ms. Keenan, is there a way I can share that, and if it's in a folder, or you want to share it?
I can share it. Yes, it'll take me a second.
Oh, I have to stop sharing, sorry.
Sorry, it's gonna take me a second.
It's okay.
That's quite all right.
Shoot, I'm having trouble finding it on my computer. I apologize. I know I emailed it right after the meeting.
They're uploaded on the Howard website.
Let me pull it
Okay,
up.
good.
I can pull it up really quick.
Sorry about that.
I couldn't find them in the drive.
That's actually what I was looking for, was them in the drive, and I forgot they were on the website. Thanks, Ms. Baker.
But if you go to our site for minutes underneath where everybody's listed,
Yeah, if
I
you
think
just
that
scroll
link-
down.
yeah, that link is there. Yeah.
And I'll drop the direct link to that
Okay.
right now.
Thank you, Ms. Poe.
As Coach Abernathy said, just scroll down just a little bit and you'll see the little chart with the meeting minutes if you need to read them on your own.
All right, as we look through, does anybody see any need for corrections or additions to the minutes? Anybody need additional time to look over the minutes? Okay, if there's no need for corrections or additions, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from October?
I so move that we approve the minutes from the October meeting.
Been
This is-
properly motion by Mr. Jones,
Tanisha Poe is seconding.
and second by Ms. Paul. All right, we will now move on to discussions items on our agenda. First is the strategic plan priority.
Okay. Let me share my screen again. I'm sorry, just 1 second. Let me scoop this. Okay, so a little bit about the strategic plan that was a little wonky this year because, and first of all, you see it says Inman Middle School. And so we have been working on, as a staff, priorities. We worked on the summer. I mean, some of the staff, were involved even in the summer with the book Learning by Doing and looking at our school priorities and school strategies. And so we have that information. The thing that's supposed to happen is that in August, see, we weren't a go team in August, is that we give this to you, or I show this to you, and then we start talking about changes in it. And so I guess I didn't want to change the name. We actually have been working on, we had a committee last spring working on the mission and vision. And so we have been working on a lot of this, and we're going to see some changes. But I think before I formally change this, because this is the strategic plan that we use every year, is so the order of things is that the Go team usually looks at that in August, and I start talking about some things that we're going to looking into. But I mean, obviously we had to go forward with some of this, with our priorities, with our strategies, and then we update those. And so just wanted to let you know is that, I mean, our plan is, and then at the next Go team in December, that then I would give you the updated strategic plan. I do not feel we have to vote on this, and I don't think Diane is here. I don't think we have to vote on it, but what I wanted to do today is I wanted to bring in Miss Allen, that's why she's here, is just to talk about the priorities that we have set as a staff, and then that you're going to see embedded into this strategic plan. So I was going to let her have just a short presentation on the priorities, and then you can answer any questions or ask any questions, sorry.
Hey guys, how are you? I am Sarita Allen. I am the one of the assistant principals. I specifically am the assistant principal over curriculum and instruction, so kind of leading a lot of that work there. So I do have a presentation here that will go over a couple of things that Dr. Maxwell has asked me to go over. So here, I'm going to go over 3 things: our SMART goals, learning by doing, our beliefs, and what do we hold tight to, and some data. So starting with this document here are our SMART goals. This is the document that the staff did actually get. I'm not going to go over, I did the screen. Let me know if, hold up. Let me know in a minute when I pop this open if you guys are able to see it. All right, can you guys still see that?
Yeah.
Great. All right, blowing it up. So just so that you know how we kind of arrived at our SMART goal, we had been looking at data. A small group of teachers and the Howard leadership team had been looking at some data that kind of helped to, take some of the busy work out for individual teachers. And we started to, draft some areas that we probably needed to improve on. So right here, at the end of last year, this was one of our realities was that for the past 3 years, the percentage of students who scored in a beginning learner in both math and ELA had notably remained the same on our STAR assessments when we were comparing fall and winter scores. Another reality was at the end of last year, 20% of our students received a failing grade of at least one class or more. And we wanted to reduce that. We thought that was high to say that 1 in 5 students, when you came through Howard, would fail a class, a core content class, ELA, math, science, or social studies. Again, we thought that was really high. So we have a goal this year is to cut that down by 5%. To when we hit in May, that we have no more than 15% of our students failing 1 or more classes. The Georgia law for promotion is that you have to be passing all of your core classes. So that's why we want this number to be as low as possible. So I've kind of said that, and when we shared it with our teachers, 94% of them agreed to it to some degree. Then they gave feedback, and so that's kind of some things that you can see down there about some different action steps. But if Dr. Maxwell desires me to go over that later, I will. Okay. And then actually looks like those two are the desired and current reality seems a little swapped. Excuse me for that. But in regards to that STAR data that I had told you before, what we desire to do is reduce the percentage of students in either beginner learners or and therefore increase our percentage of students who were proficient or above. So what that would look like is if you were in the beginner learner, whatever that percent is, whatever we started with in August, then we want to decrease that number by 1.5%. On average, that number has been about 10 to 12% each year for us, the amount of students who are beginner learners. So we want to decrease that by 1.5%. But then when you take the other end, the number of students who are in the proficient and above, so which means that they score proficient or distinguished, we want to increase that category by 3%.
Miss Allen,
yes.
Allen, could you just talk to them? I mean, we're using STAR, obviously, then milestones. I mean, just a quick about STAR, the assessment, like when we give it. I just want to make sure, especially our community members, I think our parents even know that, but just a quick rundown on STAR.
Yeah. So STAR, even when we had milestones, STAR they called it the universal screener because we have every student take it. They take it 3 times a year in regards to saying like benchmarks. And it is a computer adaptive assessment. So it's 34 questions, but as they answer each question, if they answer it more correctly, the questions get a little bit more difficult. They increase in difficulty. If they answered incorrectly, then the next question gets a little bit more easier. And so it does that back and forth, charting up and down, right until it finds that sweet spot. By the time they get to question 34, they believe that they've identified at that moment, how that student is performing. It's not just on grade level standards, right? Because a student could continue to answer questions correctly well past the current grade that they're on. And so they can actually get into, if you're a 7th grader, some higher school type of questions. And similarly, you might be a 7th grader who you're getting them so much incorrectly that it's predicted that your ability level might be 5th grade. So we, again, take that in August. We've taken it once already. We'll take it again in December, first week of December, and then we will take it again March, April. That window changes sometime for us. And so what we are comparing are our percentage numbers from August, and then this is what we want to have done by when we take it again that March, April date. And so we want to do the same in the ELA scores and the math scores. So those are our STAR scores. I'm sorry, not STAR. Those are our SMART goals, SMART goals. The next thing that I wanted to show you is how we have been structuring the school this year. We are modeling it after, and unfortunately, I normally carry my book with me every time in my book bag. It's called Learning by Doing. It is a book, and it's specifically called a guidebook for professional learning communities. And so Howard Middle School, being an organization, we want to emulate being a professional learning community. So just a second, I see the chat. Oh, sorry. Okay, wasn't for me. And so when you say, I want to take on and I want our school to, be a learning community, there are things that you do. So one, there are beliefs, and then there are things that you hold tight to, which means we're committed to doing these things. And so this document that we have created is called our PLC Guiding Beliefs. Again, I'll make it larger. And I think the biggest things right here in terms of our beliefs is our fundamental beliefs right here. We believe that all students can learn at high levels. And so we do what we can. So then the next statement is all staff will work collaboratively and take collective responsibility for the success of each student. And so you see a lot of us having an emphasis on how our teachers work together to get this knowledge of collective understanding and then collective responsibility in these collaborative teams. And when I say collaborative teams, I mean same grade, same content. So I may be talking about Science 7, which is 4 science teachers in 7th grade. I may be talking about Math 8, which means 4 math teachers in 8th grade. And so we talk about taking collective responsibility that if one teacher is having difficulty with one student, they're able to bring that situation to the group and devise a plan together because that student could have been on anybody's roster. So that's the fundamental belief that we have. And Then the Learning by Doing book tells you that there are 6 things that you should do if you want to be a PLC, and that is doing the right work as an educator. And so the very first one is that educators work collaboratively rather than in isolation. Again, taking collective responsibility for student learning and clarifying commitments they make to each other about how they will work together. If I could expound on that, I would probably say that you see that happening vertically, not just on the teacher level, but from the middle level teachers or a teacher leader to even our leadership team. You know, we try our best not to make decisions without one or the other. And so again, not in isolation, but collaboratively, and then clarifying commitments. So holding each other accountable, but then constantly explaining to each other, well, what does that really look like, right? So that we know the expectations for one another. Number 2, the fundamental structure of the schools becomes the collaborative team in which the members work interdependently to achieve common goals for which all members are mutually accountable. So when I talk about collaborative teams and I talk about Math 8 and Science 7, I'm going to keep talking about those teams because it's their work that helps us meet our goal. To be exact, I'm sending an email right before you guys got started. I sent an email to all of the collaborative teams about particular failure rate data of their team, right? And so that they know how to work with one another. That's how we make gains. Number 3, the team establishes a guaranteed and viable curriculum, unit by unit, so all students have access to the same knowledge and skills regardless of the teacher to whom they are assigned. I think that that's pretty clear, right? It's we got students could randomly been in any one class, right? So we want to make sure that in that team, they're very clear and tight on what it is that we agree that we're going to have students learn. I would also maybe focus on that is we're really making sure that the mindset is on students learning and not as much teachers teaching. That takes a bit of a shift, but it's a conversation that we're regularly having. Number 4, the team develops common formative assessments to frequently gather evidence of student learning. Those are the CFAs that you probably have heard Dr. Maxwell mention last year that we implemented. And now the teachers are really seeing, now that we're really doing the whole PLC process, they're really understanding why do we have these short assessments, short frequent assessments that we don't put in the grade book, because what we want to do is make sure the students are learning. And so this is a guide for the teachers to say, I just gave them a question on something that I deemed essential, and they're showing me they got it. I can move on. Oh, they aren't getting it. Let me go back. Number 5, the school has created a system of interventions and extensions to ensure students who struggle receive additional time and support for learning in a way that is timely, directive, diagnostic, and systematic. And students who demonstrate proficiency can extend their learning. So you've been hearing us talk about proficiency and beyond. And so that is where in advisory time, no longer taking students out of classes to receive instruction of intervention where they did not have skills, because we know that students come to us without skills. This is where we've created a block of time where students who need that intervention can get it. You're going to hear about Iready for students who have a tier 2 or a tier 3 plan. That is a process of identifying students who are grade levels below, to be exact, falling in like the less than 10 percentile rank on a STAR assessment, or falling in the less than 25% on the STAR assessment. That is work being managed by Ms. Antone, the 6th grade assistant principal. She manages our MTSS program. And so, but then making sure that kids who are ready and they have already demonstrated mastery, that they get other skills. And so you will hear your students talking about doing college and career lessons, or you will hear them talking about if they were in social studies, obviously talking about the election, right? And so those are some things that you see them doing during that P&B or advisory time. We kind of interchange what the name. Number 6, the team uses evidence of student learning to inform and improve the individual and collective practice of its members. And so that means that when we get that CFA, when we're getting the data from the test or the data from these interventions, that we respond. We then say we make course corrections based off of the results of our data. So now I'm going to take you a little bit to our data, and this is our current data as of our first quarter. I will go to this one. So let's see. Okay, so we start here in 6th grade. Here, what you can see is the percentage of students currently. I took this data on yesterday, Sunday, so it is, like I said, very up to date about the number of students who have 2 or more Fs, and we have broken it down, disaggregated it by race. And so what you can see in 6th grade is that 6% of our white students have 2 or more Fs, 43% of, in 6th grade, 43% of our Black students have 2 or more Fs, 11% of our mixed students, that's almost 42% of our Hispanic students, and our other means, I think it's like Asian Island and Pacific Islander, Native American, those kind of fall all together there. And then, so right now, 21, almost 22% of our 6th graders have 2 or more Fs, but of that 21%, we can see that 80% of it becomes our students of color. And we talk about how that's disproportionate, right? Because if you know, proportionality, what you talk about is if things are going to be equally distributed, right? And your sample is to look like your population, then if you see that almost half of your population is white, then you should see, you know, if everything's being fair across the board, you'd see about half of your students being white that are getting 2 or more Fs, right? But that's not the case here. We see that only 6%, whereas 43% of the Black population. Okay, so then I can go across. And that means that we have work to do, right? Because, you know, it's not guaranteed that those students it's not that every Black student is in poverty. It's not that every Black student doesn't have parents, right, that are supportive. But whatever the case is, when we take all the kids and bring them into giving them the same instruction, right, we're seeing a breakdown. Here in 7th grade, you see 17%, so less students, less percentage of students have 2 or more Fs, but almost 5% of the white students, 37% of our Black students, 13% of our mixed students, 17.9% of our Hispanic students, and again, none in this category here. 8th grade, 4%, 47%, 7%, 35%. And it's a pattern over and over again. And so we are committed to diving into that and why, and doing more equitable practices, which means, you know, when we say that all students can learn, this doesn't look like all students can learn at high levels, right? Let's be honest, it looks like white students can learn at high levels, and that our Black students and our Hispanic students, we're not sure when we see 37% and 43%. So that's the data. And if I kind of come back, it's no pictures, but if you kind of see how it all works together now, right? It works together that I've got data, and now I've got some protocols, and I need to make sure that what does that look like when it means we believe that all students can learn at high levels, and how does that translate to our goals for the school year?
Ms. Allen, can I ask a question really fast?
Of course.
Just for the minutes. You said that 22% of 6th graders are failing 2 or more classes. And then you said that 17% of the 7th graders are failing 2 or more, but I missed what the percentage was for 8th grade.
You know, because I didn't actually say it. It is, okay, there we go, okay. 19%.
And because you were throwing a lot of numbers up there, would you say that, I believe you said, and I'm just making sure that I wrote this down correctly, that 80% of the kids that are failing are also children of color?
So that was in 6th grade.
Is
So
that true also in 7th and 8th?
Hold on. If I take my 88, I can give you a number real quickly to tell you of your students of color.
Just trying to stay parallel with my notes.
Gotcha. Okay, hold on one second. All right, I'm almost there.
You're fine. I'm still typing.
Would it be appropriate to put Miss Allen's chart in the minutes? You know, you can either do it as a snippet or that might be easier than trying to.
I'm trying to just distill it down because that was a lot of numbers, and for a brain like mine, that was a lot. So I was just trying to keep it simple because I think what she was trying to, illustrate was that things are not equitable. But I just wanted to make sure that if we had those same statistics for 6th grade, that we had them for 7th and for 8th. So I'm sorry.
The number's 80 is 82.6% of our students, percentage of students who are failing 2 or more classes are students of color.
And that was
But
7th grade?
If you say it again?
And that was for 7th grade?
No. I thought you asked for the whole school. Hold up. Maybe
I'm doing it by grade level because you said 80% in 6th grade, and then I asked how many were in 7th and how many were in 8th.
Okay, sorry, I did not get that one, but your overall.
If you want to just privately chat me, I can put that in there.
So the other thing is this is a good time to say, Ms. Gibson, I know you just said that the presentation can actually be included with the minutes, the full presentation, if we want, and I'm not saying we do, but I think it'd be a good time just to introduce Ms. Gibson too, because we usually have Diane Jacoby.
Hey, hi. I'm Chandra Gibson. I'm the school governance coordinator. I'm filling in for Diane today. I know that she usually supports you guys, but she had another school with a meeting, and they're still in their meeting. So I told her I would happily jump in to support Howard. So thanks for having me here. I did, to Kevin's point, just pop in on the chat. And so you don't necessarily have to like summarize the presentation in the minutes, because the actual full presentation could and really should be attached with the minutes. So, I don't know if that's helpful.
Right.
As far as the secretary trying to take the minutes. You can just, put up the whole presentation actually.
All right.
Yeah, that was gonna be my suggestion. Can we make sure any notes or any documents that we discuss within the meetings be also put on the website? And I can volunteer, it doesn't matter, but someone also put those in the Go Team Drive. And it'll also be helpful if we know that we're making presentations and there are documents to attach, that we can share those ahead of time as much as possible, so that we can come prepared to ask questions if we have any. This is Janine, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, Ms. Allen, and you have the Go Team Drive. You have access if you wanted to put that in there.
Gotcha, I can add it in there.
And to piggyback on kind of what Ms. Allen talked about, I have a couple questions. So one is, where can we find information on the curriculum, just school specific? I think most folks know where we can find it at a state level, but for the school, so I think that'll help inform parents and streamline a way for them to know whether or not their kids are doing good or if they're aligning to that specific curriculum. Because I think it's very hard to get insight for parents when they don't really know those specifics of what the kids are learning.
Ms. Allen?
Teachers, I would really say it's our syllabus, and it's really one of our next steps to do. And actually, I presented it to all of our teachers. It's so interesting that I did present that at the beginning of the school year to them. I said, hey, I need a blurb about what you're covering. But don't we have Google Classroom? I need you to give me a blurb that we can put on the website, because we need people who are just kind of coming to search about what the content is about, that they can see it. So I want to say that's actually still on our to-do list. It has not been completed yet.
Okay, I think I missed some of that because background noise, but as a whole, you guys are working on the curriculum and an outline for that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, we're working on an outline that we can post to the website.
Any other questions?
Miss Allen, this is Jennifer. I had a question about the goals related to the STAR data that you presented. You said that there was a goal to decrease the number of kids at the proficient level by 1.5%, and then to increase the kids who were, or the percentage of, I don't remember the terms, on level and above by 3%.
Yes.
I was wondering why the on level and above were grouped together as a 3% rather than a 1.5% goal for each category.
So I think, you know, when you set goals, you want them to be well, okay, because what we were looking at, the students who are not yet performing. And so when you look at those performance descriptors, there are 4 of them: beginner, developing, proficient, distinguished. And so really, you got that bottom one, which covers the beginner, because we want to start moving that bottom indicator. We were not moving that one at all. But then these kids here who are developing, who are not yet proficient, are still not at grade level. And so what we were saying is that we wanted to increase this overall category here of proficient and above. And so it kind of was really looking at these developing kids, trying to grab more of them and push them up. And one of the data points that's not in there is when we look at our data. And so if you look at that highest category of distinguished, which maybe is what you're getting at, is it actually showed that we were increasing and growing our distinguished bubble. That was happening, but the bubble that was not moving or would maybe grow by a percent sometimes was the beginner learning bubble. And so we looked at where we were stagnant at, and that's where we made our SMART goals on.
Okay, I think it's a little confusing because you just described that there are 4 levels and the presentation referenced 3. So I guess I'm still not clear. I invite you to maybe revisit that, you know, to describe the 4 levels, because is it the beginning level that there's a goal to decrease that by 1.5%?
Yes to that.
Other 3 combined to increase by 3%? It's just not clear.
So the reason that you wouldn't say decrease the developing level, because that's not specific enough of actually saying that your students are getting more content knowledge. If you say that you want to decrease your developing students, that may have meant that you increase your beginner levels, because there are 2 places for them to go. But if we do increase our proficient and above, so proficient and distinguished category, we know we took the kids into more content, and we took them up into the categories that we needed them to go into. And that's why it doesn't and it's one of those, is we aren't trying to say that it has to be, you need to go from beginner to developing to proficient, right? You may move from developing into, you may move from beginner, lowest level, into proficient. So there's so many ways to have done that, but the end result of what we want is what we know for sure is we want the lowest performance category to decrease, and we want what's considered on grade level and above to increase. And that's where you see those 2 data points referencing.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, I understand your description. I still don't think it's clear though on your slide, but I understand what you're saying.
Thank you. I understand.
I have A question and a comment of sorts. So how do you determine, Ms. Allen, which students go to the proficiency and beyond, and what those, I guess, classes or advisory times are for? Because to me, just from my purview of what I see, it just seems that it's strictly based on grades, when we know grades are not the only indicator of a student having gaps, of a student failing, of a student needing extra support and things like that.
Actually, it's not based on grades at all. So we have, in terms of proficiency and beyond, there are 3 groups. The group that needs the most, we call them formal interventions. Formal interventions means the student is on a tier 2 or a tier 3 plan. We collect data through STAR, and they get on Iready. Much of that work is done through Ms. Antone. And then there's the middle group, that's informal intervention. Their data was not as low as the students who are on the formal intervention, but the teachers have identified that this student is not yet performing that well. And so in prevention mode, they identify those kids and bring them into their groups and work with students that they identify. But the groups to be successful have to be small. So they are, on average, if any kid is in formal intervention or informal intervention, group size of less than 10 is where they are. And then all students that are not formal intervention or informal intervention receive the extension group. And then they are either doing that college and career or doing the science and social studies extension. So again, it is by grade, but it's the teacher. The teacher says, I need this student to be in my informal intervention group. And so we had the first window of this. We did it in increments of 5 weeks. We did the first window, ended October 23rd. And right at the tail end that we went and we met with the teachers again, and we asked them, based off of the progress that you are seeing, do you believe these students should stay in informal intervention, or do they go to extension, or do you need a kid who was sitting in extension back in informal intervention? And so we mean that for this to be fluid, that it is not like, it's not a perfect algorithm by far. The teachers are using those numerical grades, but they're also using that qualitative data that they're seeing in that classroom. And I'll take a moment and actually just kind of pass it to Ms. Antone for a second, just because she does a lot of the work with our tier 2 and our tier 3 and our MTSS.
And also, can Ms. Antone, can you explain for those that are on the call that don't really know about the tier?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, you're hearing a lot of acronyms, so let me just kind of explain what all of that means. So I apologize. We have so many in education. When Ms. Allen mentioned RTI and SST and MTSS, basically the process that I work with in the school is MTSS. It's multi-tiered systems of support, because we know that it takes, more than just working with a kid, in class, in one classroom, to help them be successful. And it doesn't just include, if a kid is having struggles in academics, it also includes behavior. So we're looking at the total child. However, RTI is what we do in Georgia. It's mandated by the State Department. We have to make sure that we have in place a system to help students who are struggling. And that's called response to intervention. And normally when we talk about RTI, you're talking about a student that, we have identified through our universal screener that Ms. Allen talked about before when she got started. And we look at students, if they score below the 25th percentile, for example, on the STAR assessment, and below the 10th percentile, we have to look at those kids. But what we like to do is triangulate that data, because students may not take the test seriously. So we never want to look at one resource to say that, okay, this kid needs help. But we also get teacher feedback, teacher observations, and we also normally like to look at the Georgia milestones in addition to that, and any other data that we have to look at historical data to see which kids do we need to identify that needs to be in the RTI process at the tier 2 level, okay? We take those students and we try to make sure that we look at their skill deficits and make sure that we put interventions in place to work with them to see progress throughout the year on those skill deficits. And then with tier 3, which is also a part of the MTSS process, they move into what you call the student support team process of what we're doing with interventions. And that is more intense, whereas we actually monitor these kids very closely. We make sure we have interventions in place in their areas of skill deficit. And we also call the parents in along with the teachers, the counselors, to make sure that we are meeting on them periodically throughout the year to actually look at their data and look at how they're growing throughout the year in this process. With the tier 2 students, we meet once a month with grade levels to discuss how those students are doing with the interventions we are providing. And so during that proficiency and beyond time that Ms. Allen discussed, we actually have placed those students based on our universal screeners. And because we were operating in crisis mode last year from March to May, we automatically brought over any student that had a tier 2 plan, even if they were in 5th grade and they moved up to 6th grade and they had a tier 2 plan at whatever elementary school, we picked up where they left off to make sure that we had those kids placed with interventions during that proficiency and beyond time, as well as any student that came to us with the tier 3 plan. And we also looked at that STAR data, teacher feedback, to determine if any additional kids needed to provide those intense interventions. One thing that we're using this year is a platform called Iready, whereas the kids, they take a diagnostic test at the beginning once we get started with that. And it's also an adaptive test, just like STAR. But what it does is it will help us to identify where we need to start with the kid when we're providing interventions. It may go as low as 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, but we're meeting the kid where they are, and we're trying to see growth throughout the year. We do that diagnostic 3 times in a year, fall, mid-year, end of the year, so that we can see what type of impact we're having in terms of that progress. We set goals with the students, and we are really trying to put some structures in place this year so that we're doing a thorough job and we're trying to implement it with fidelity, and as well as making sure the students know along the way how well they're progressing and meeting their goals in terms of what we've identified as what they need to work on. And so that pretty much sums up what we're doing in terms of our students who are receiving those interventions. And like I said, it's the RTI/SST process, which is mandated, like I said, through the state of Georgia. And the teachers document that data and make sure that when they come to those meetings, we're not just having a random discussion. We're actually looking at data over the week's time to say, okay, so the kid may have had a 40 or 50 here, 60 there, or 70, or they may be doing great. And we have those discussions to, determine, do we continue what we're doing, is working, or is this not working? What do we do now? But we're constantly brainstorming throughout the year in terms of what we need to do for those students. So we are trying to have a laser sharp focus.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Anton.
You're welcome.
So I would just like to say, both to Ms. Antone and Ms. Allen, that was excellent information. I honestly have been confused about this whole semester. I have not really understood what the proficiency and beyond meant. I didn't really understand how it was being implemented. So what you both just described was very clear, and I mean, sounds like a great, obviously a lot of thought has gone into this, a lot of efforts going into it. So thank you. 2 other comments, and I know we talked about this at the last Go Team, perhaps about maybe having some sort of virtual back to school or meet the teacher or something. And this to me is a perfect example of why we need this. As I said, I've been very confused by this, and I've talked to my daughters and they've kind of given me iffy information on this whole program. So I think, something like this just made it crystal clear. And now I completely understand, even if maybe my daughters don't, this program now and how it's working. And then one other thing, just to piggyback, and again, I know we talked about this at the last meeting too, is the availability of the STAR scores. And you were saying, you know, you're constantly looking to see if a kid needs to maybe go from one level to the other level, and you're looking at all these data points. I still haven't been able to find my daughter's STAR scores. And admittedly, I have not reached out. I've been trying to find them on Infinite Campus, trying to have my girls find it on Google Classroom or wherever. So I think we need to think about how all of this data can be more accessible to the specific parent. You know, I just need data on my children. I don't need to see, of course, even anonymously, I don't need to see other people's test scores. But, you know, really, I feel the only feedback I get on my girls is just a number in Infinite Campus.
So for this STAR and kind of can say what happened on that. We were told after the fact, after we gave STAR, so we found ourselves in the pickle that, you know, the way that we distributed STAR scores would be through paper. We printed them off and they were sent home to the students that way. But obviously in virtual, you know, like it's not the same to be able to do get those numbers and like email them to the parents. You can't do it that way, or it would be like someone typing in the 1,200 email addresses with the 2 STAR scores, STAR Math, STAR ELA per student, right? And so that just wasn't realistic. And so we did look into through asking STAR, what does this look like, so that parents could get the number, get the STAR scores. And initially they said, you know, here's a website, they can get it through there. And we learned that half of that was true, is a parent can go in to this one particular website and see the students' STAR reading score, the most recent one that they have taken, but they can't see much else. And it also doesn't explain to the parents like, well, what that score is. And so it's just a little more confusing. What we believe, and it's going to be trial and error, but what should be happening this week is the ELA and math teachers are going to walk the students through logging into that account. And what they have to do is type in their parents' email address. And I've already done my end, which is through the STAR server, said that every time a student takes a STAR assessment, email the parent on that Home Connect account. Again, it's going to be trial and error because they told us one thing and it didn't work the first time. And so what we're doing again is having all the ELA and math teachers have kids open up that account, type in their parents' email addresses, and then so that we're ready before they take the next set of STAR, which is the first week in December. And then if that's done, we take STAR, and then you're supposed to get an email of the STAR reading score or each assessment that they take. Again, we've not did it yet, right? Because we haven't had another assessment window. So like, so I'll kind of be able to, you guys will be letting me know if it worked after we take that STAR assessment. But Ms. Keenan, I'll get you your girl scores, okay? I know that doesn't help everybody because I can't email 1,200 people. I'm just being honest, we can't. But what we tried our best to do, and some of the efforts were successful. I know that they weren't successful entirely, but we did a data talk with the students at the very beginning of September. And inside of there, we gave the students their STAR reading score and their percentile rank. And we talked to them about what that meant. Now, again, it doesn't translate to where every student was able to re-deliver that conversation to their own student. And so we understand that. In some cases they could. And so that was kind of our first attempt to be like, we made sure that every kid was aware of that. And we will do that again in January. December, they'll take STAR. And in January, every kid will get a one-on-one data talk where we're going to remind them of their new STAR score, percentile rate, and even have them write down their closing out semester 1 grades on that data chat.
And I also wanted to say one last thing, just to make sure the parents understand that with the students who are providing interventions for, those formal interventions for, they're not just being put on a platform online to just work from a platform. It is basically that coupled with small group teacher instruction. And so if the teachers see that they're working on that platform, it actually alerts them when they're struggling, and it will shut down and just stop. And the teachers can work with that kid one-on-one during that proficiency and beyond class to get them up to speed and then back onto the platform. So it's using the Iready platform along with teacher small group facilitated instruction. So
I want to say also piggyback off the STAR. I think Jennifer and I will be open to, if you want to use us as guinea pigs so you don't have to email all these parents, to actually see if it works first before you try a system like this with sending those scores out. Another idea I had is if we can maybe get a Google form, because I think I've gotten it in the past and I think it was a lot of benefit to me seeing it and being able to read it myself. It was like a whole STAR report where it had the math and the reading score and what each one of those meant. So if we can get a form where parents can fill out who actually want to see that hard paper copy of those scores, and they can understand for their kid where their kid is at. And I think that would make it more accessible for those parents to be able to help their kids or even understand the whole world of STAR.
So if I may, I kind of bring up equity. I use that term here because what I'd hate to happen is the parents who we know are most involved in, wanting to learn information, that they are the ones who sign up. Like, our job at the school is to make sure that if it's good for one and it's really good for all, that we make it happen for all. And that would be where I push back about a form where parents can elect into it, because I imagine who's not going to sign up and say, yes, send my kids a STAR report home. And so that would be my challenge, honestly, when I think about it from an equity sense.
Ms. Allen?
So I think teachers can push this information out, as well as parents can push this information out. But again, I think there's a lot of value. And if anybody stands for equity, it's me. That's part of the reason that I became a part of this Go team. But I think if I'm hearing it correctly, just sending an email with their score doesn't really inform or tell the parents much about their kid's score. Just know that this is their score and this is where they are. Now, we can send the full report via email. I think that would be awesome, but I just don't know if that's an option.
So that's why I'm saying sending it by email wasn't the option, but I maybe wanted to clarify about the website. And this is my understanding about the website. When we type in the email address, you will get, and I call it the score, but I think you'll probably get the score and the report emailed to you, not just an email of the score. And the system does it, and we have to do it before every time the kid takes a test. So it would be something we'd have to just do for everyone. So thank you so much for volunteering for that, but we just have to have all the kids enter the parent email addresses before they all take that assessment. And what I'm hoping is that you get the score with the report at the time that they take it.
Right. What's most important to me is the access to the information for parents.
Yeah, and I guess in the 21st century, you think that you would be able to do that. I know the milestones was always really good, where you could get that data online. Mr. Bigger is our data specialist, and so I think we're going to reach out to him to see if there's anything that he can push on STAR to make this happen, and just to make sure that the APS, our data specialists, and STAR, the people at STAR, know that we have some parents who are frustrated about, it should be easier to get these scores online. So we'll make sure.
Hands down agree.
Ms. Baker, I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
I typed it in the chat.
Oh, okay.
He was asking about the snail mail, being able to send them out.
Hey, this is Chandra, just jumping in from like a governance perspective. I don't know, because I'm looking at the time and it's 5:30, and then I'm looking at your agenda. And are you guys, this is still the targeted intervention plan discussion?
No, it's just the priorities.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know if there's a specific ask that you have for Go team members as far as feedback goes. But as far as, I guess, the kind of discussion about like what it will ultimately look like, that is going to be more of a operational decision, if you see what I'm saying, Kevin. So I don't know if there's like a specific question that you have for the team, but seeing as how we're only on the first discussion item and we're an hour in, I just wanted to, remind you guys of time.
Yep. Okay. No. We understand. We can go to the next one, and we'll work on work on getting the STAR information out. So,
right, because
Yeah.
and Travis does like a session on the strategic plan and the priorities, but from the priority perspective, or from the Go team and that strategic planning perspective, we just want to make sure we're clear on kind of like what the priority is, and then like how we're going to measure it. So if you are saying that you want to use that STAR as your measurement or your key performance indicator for your strategic priority, like that's fine. But maybe you guys should just center around like, what is the measurement you're looking for, or how are you going to measure success or progress towards your ultimate goal. And then I don't know if you guys this year are going to have like a family engagement committee as far as it relates to, communicating student progress to parents, in a virtual environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's no. And we're going to talk about that in D. I think we're talking about the family engagement and communication advice.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So targeted intervention plan. And the district has talked to each principal and each school to really look at those students who are failing. What Miss Allen said, looking at, Miss Allen showed that data of 2 or more Fs. And so we have created a plan that we're going to talk to the staff on Tuesday as in tomorrow morning at 7:45. We've given them some preliminary, actually gave them a survey with some information, and we're going to talk to them on Tuesday. So I want to talk generally about it. But I always like to give the information out specifically to the staff first. But this how it happens. But definitely want to talk about it because it's coming up. Actually, the week of November 16th, we can start. And so this targeted intervention plan, the kids that we're looking at, basically, it's kind of the who, what, when, where. So who is kids, and we're really tight on this as far as very objective on the data that we use on what who we're targeting. And so those are kids with 3 or more Fs, or 72% or less attendance. So they're attending school 72% or less. Because what we see is a correlation between kids who are not on virtually a lot and obviously failing. And so those kids, those students, for the most part, and we listen to the grade level meetings actually on Friday, and I got to go to each one, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And all the teachers, it was really serendipitous, like all saying the same things. They're saying, if we could create some type of pods, just like Wheat Street's doing right now, right? Some type of pods that we could get those kids more supervision, because some of those kids are not just being supervised because, mom or dad are at work, maybe they're kids, multiple kids in the house. And the connectivity, they just don't have strong connectivity. For instance, I talked to Georgia Tech's actually working on this with them, but we found that like in our area in Bedford Pines, which is right down the road, where because those houses are so old that the Wi-Fi doesn't get into the building. So even if there's free Wi-Fi, like Xfinity/Comcast, they're not getting where it needs to be. And then even the hotspot, as Miss Lewis knows, one hotspot's kind of like a hotspot on your phone. It doesn't, like when you have a hotspot and you have more than 2 or 3 or 4 kids on it, then it's not going to be as strong. And so that's the teacher said, if we could create some place for them where they could be, and to get that connectivity and to get that supervision. And so what many schools are doing, I know what we're going to do is we are going to create pods for those students at school. And so we can do that. It's an intervention, so it's 2 days a week, and it'll be a couple days. And we are targeting those kids, and those kids, Miss Allen has the numbers, but it's anywhere going to be from 100, could be anywhere from 120 to 150 students where we would target. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start calling these parents and letting them know about this, and some may decline. But what we've already found, we've called a few that some actually need a different service than maybe a pod. And so we're working through that. And then also, well, let me back up. Okay, so that's the who. The what's the intervention. So the when is next week, starting next week. How we're going to do this, and so obviously we are working on all the health and safety precautions for this, including taking temperatures, social distancing, not more than 8 people in the classroom. That concludes a staff member. And so staff members will be supervising these pods. And so the other item that we're going to do is, obviously you all know that we have this this asynchronous period. So during those days with those kids, these are the kids that have 3 or more Fs. So those are the kids that have maybe 50% or 20. And it's because they haven't had the opportunity, many of them, because of the connectivity. And so we are going to give them during the asynchronous time and during the office hours at the end, is give them time to make up some work, make up those essential standards that they missed the first 9 weeks. And so, yeah, we're going to talk in detail more about that to the staff. We have surveyed the staff on to see if there's any of them that would be willing to, obviously simultaneously teach. Well, teach that they would supervise, but they would, be teaching also in their 4 classes or 3 classes, depending if they're connections or core. And then we're also considering doing some things after school, either on Zoom or in the building, but we're going to wait until after Thanksgiving, because we really want to make sure that we are trying to, we want to make sure we get this right and just focus on this one thing with the pods.
So I have a couple questions there. So how did you guys determine these 2 data points? So what if it's a kid that not is necessarily like failing really badly, but doesn't have the reliable access to internet access, or like you said, they have a different need and they're not a part of these 2 data points? Then how are you guys going to figure out how to support them?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got to take it on an individual basis. And so we will, like for that, we would probably, from a connectivity issue, talk to Ms. Poe, and Ms. Poe could reach out if there is a technology. I mean, again, it just depends on the situation. For us, is that we know that we have to see how many staff are going to be willing to work. So it's basically every staff member that will help. We would can work with 7 students. And so we can only go up to, I think, about 20 or 25% of the staff and student body. That's a non-negotiable, or guardrail that we have through the district. And so we're just going on descending order. Like, we're looking at the kids who are, in the most need. And we say the most vulnerable students is those students that have the most Fs and that, are here 0 or 5% of the time. And then we're just going to keep going. And then if there's a kid that we figured out, oh wait, they don't need this pod, they could use this, or they could do another intervention, or there might be, I'm sure there's going to be parents that might just decline, just for health and safety of just thinking about it from a family situation. And so they have to make that decision. Then we'll go to the next student. So we're basically being tied on that, and we have just an order and descending order, and just going to kind of go through the list, and that will be the deans and the counselors and the assistant principals.
Okay, and my other thing is just for a point of clarification. So operationally, the administration and the staff and things, they implement those plans and things like that. But actually the Go team sets the priorities and adopts the strategies as a whole. And I'm just a little concerned that when these things come up or things are happening, you know, we learn kind of late in the game and we don't really get to talk about or discuss kind of what's on everyone's minds as far as the school and the administration. So bringing us in the fold so we can discuss it, and then it seems like it happens internally, then that's spread externally.
Well, I mean, Miss Gibson can talk about that because I feel it's kind of like a school board. So, and maybe I'm wrong, because the day-to-day operations, like Dr. Herring makes those, that the school board doesn't, you know, really make that decision of the day-to-day operation. When the district says, hey, you have this intervention plan, then I feel like it's not a situation where I go to the Go team and ask what you want to do. That I would just ask my administrative staff. That's why we hired them, and my leadership team. And then I'm just letting you know from an operational standpoint what we're doing. So
is it a district decision?
The district decision is that that you're going to create it's called a TIP. It's called so it's an intervention plan. It's a targeted intervention plan. And
okay.
So as a leadership team, a school leadership team, then we make that decision on what that's going to look like at David T. Howard.
Okay, that makes sense. I didn't know that came from the district.
Yeah.
I thought that was from a school level. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions?
For clarity, our role as Go team is to like hear and advise, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Right. And this is Chandra. So and I know we're a little bit so ideally for our new Go team members, you guys would have been elected in the spring, like May, and then we would have spent the summer doing new team member orientation, but COVID, so things look a little bit different this year. So we're going to still be going through new member orientation in the coming weeks. But as far as like just a very high level overview of kind of the Go teams, I guess the word would be responsibilities as it relates to this kind of strategic planning process. Really, you guys live in, I don't know, Kevin, if you guys as a team have spent time like kind of centering yourselves in the current strategic plan. Have you guys done that yet?
No, we haven't. Like I said, this is our second meeting. And so
okay.
That's what we talked about priorities, because I didn't feel like, I mean, we had to kind of do the nuts and bolts in our first
meeting. In that first meeting.
So I just felt like Ms. Gibson, like even I wanted to talk to him, and that's why I just talked to him a little bit about the strategic plan before I even like touched the document. I just wanted to let them know about it. So then when I come back and just to let the Go team know that we are working on it as a staff. And
right.
That's why we wanted Miss Antone and Miss Allen to have some conversation.
Right.
Like, you know, we're doing a lot of good work, and really the teachers are working harder than anybody else on this. And so,
right.
And so, yeah. And I will say, Miss Gibson, like I told Diane Jacoby, I wanted you know, I would have liked to have the staff and the parents voted on in the spring, because I think if you know me from last year, last couple of years, it's like, I want the input. I want to give you that information. So I feel like we are kind of playing catch up right now.
Right. Absolutely. 110%. Right. So I say all of that to say, you know, for the questions around kind of like where the Go team fits into like these discussions right here. And I'm assuming maybe that you guys will get to it probably the next meeting. Kevin, and I would suggest, you know, encourage this, is that maybe you walk the team through the current strategic plan so that they understand what the school's current priorities are, right? So that then when we have the conversations about like the targeted intervention plan or different things of that nature, they can, you know, ground that conversation and tie it back to like, okay, but you know, these are the priorities, right? So, and I'm just, because I'm not familiar with Howard's strategic plan at all, but as an example, if the Go team has discussed and, based on the school data, decided that, 6th grade math is a great focus area and a strategic priority. Then when we have the conversation about what does the targeted intervention plan, what does that look like, and how do we roll that out to students in the school, right? We are going to be prioritizing kids in the 6th grade who we see are having some challenges with math, right? So then that way, maybe it might help. And, I don't know, specifically for the parents, I guess, on the call or community members, but I'm thinking that might help, with people like make those connections as far as how you're operationalizing that strategic plan. As far as the targeted intervention piece goes, that is something that is a, I don't use the word directive, but that does come from the chief of schools office, because we have had we've had to remain virtual for this whole first semester. And so from a district level, there is an understanding that, it's not an ideal situation for all of our kids. And so we're just trying to find that balance, I think. And Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm speaking out of turn from the school's office, but they're just trying to find that balance between, managing things from a health and safety perspective, but also really being intentional when we're looking at that school level data to see, okay, who are our kids that we really need to get in here so that we can give them the support that they need, because we can see that it's like not working as well as we would like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think we showed the data on that, and the data that the students where you saw a high percentage of 2 or more Fs are the students who are not connecting for whatever reason. They're having that attendance. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm glad the district is giving us that directive, and so that we can try to support those students. Thanks, Ms. Gibson.
Thanks, Ms. Gibson. In regard to that, do you have all the pod sites lined up now? Are you good there?
Yeah, I know. Oh gosh. I'm hearing myself. Am I echoing? No? Okay.
You're good now.
Yeah, so I know we do, but we may need Blueprint. Like, if that's something that I know you talked about that. We could also, again, we're just starting this. I think some schools are even using some community members, right? That have the background check. What is that? The level 1. I don't know if it's level 1 or level 3, but the highest level background check. So, I mean, I think that's something that that we can look into. But it's like a start, right? It's not going to be perfect. Just like when we talked to all of you about the Proficiency and Beyond, we thought we were going to be doing this in school. It would have been a lot easier to kind of work this around in the school than to do it virtually. So, but it's something that we're going to start next week, and but we may need some support. Thanks, Ms. Lewis.
All right, next on the agenda is Ms. Beatles with the budget.
And I'll take this one because I told Ms. Beatles this, is that, and again, because I can summarize it because I know it's 5:52, and basically it's just that we ended up with 1,188 students at the 21-day mark, which was about 12 or 13 students over our projection. And so they gave us money like they would give anybody else money that had that that added to their enrollment. But just a reminder for us, last spring, because of COVID and because of the budget, that we had to cut our budget, and we were supposed to get to a 0. And this is for, I guess I should say this, I thought I said this the first time, but just in case, I know that some of you are new on the Go team, but we balanced our budget, but then we had to cut our budget because of COVID, and we're obviously lost some funding at APS. And so we couldn't get to a 0 because, we try to put everything in personnel because we have a strong foundation, a strong PTO. But we were close. And so basically the budget, I'm losing the CFO, Lisa Bracken. So they, the budget committee at APS, they kind of gave us grace for that, right? They gave us grace about $70,000 or $80,000. And basically they said, hey, you made this, but you remember how we gave you grace? And so basically you're back at zero, you're good. So we don't really gain any money, but I just wanted to let the Go team know this, because you're like, oh wait, you gained some, like where you bring it. Remember, we talk about where you're going to put that money, but we're just basically getting it back to a balanced budget. And so I just wanted to let everybody know that. And if there's not any questions, we're going to go to Mr. Abernathy. I know the Family and Engagement and Communication Advisory, we kind of spoke about this a little bit in our when we were creating our agenda.
So we started a lot of good work last spring on trying to establish a way to better communicate with all the families across the board. So this year, we're going to continue that work. Definitely within the virtual environment is going to be a little bit different. But Miss Keenan and Miss Walker brought up some great points about there are great things that are going on, but a lot of people just don't know. So we got to find a better way to reach out to those parents and those families to provide that information as well as assistance, so that we can kind of get those students on track that we need to get engaged. So Miss Keenan, I would like you to head that committee if you would.
Sure.
Miss Gibson, I don't know what is the official process for that.
Say it again.
What is the official process for me designating one of the Go team members to head the Family Engagement Committee?
I can send you the information for that. So the chair, you're the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So you would just appoint the person, that you would like to lead the committee. Now, I will say, don't necessarily spring it on anybody here tonight, but I can send you, the resources that we have for that. So if, you could ask for, volunteers or for people to, connect with you if they're interested. And then if maybe no one reaches out to you, then you can reach out to the person that, you would like to lead the committee. And then we have like, it's just like a little document that you guys would kind of sign off on and fill in the details as far as the committee goes. But we have it all in a template that I can send you.
Okay, thank you. Me and Ms. Keenan had talked about that. So,
okay.
So I wanted to go ahead and designate her as the chair of that committee.
Mm-hmm. And you can make a motion to that, or call for a motion, request a motion to that nature. Okay.
Okay.
In
so
support of,
an actual action item, or whether I was just designating her to that committee.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You can, do that during your action items. And then the other thing, Kevin, where are you guys with like the family engagement leadership team?
The leadership team, as far as the person.
The family engagement leadership team. Have you had your meeting with the family engagement office yet?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Okay.
Nobody reached out to me on that.
Okay. So I'll follow up with them as well, just to see kind of like where the Grady cluster is on their like,
we met together. All the principals met together with the
family engagement
chair. Yeah.
But Doc, they've sent emails out to several of us for the leadership team.
Okay.
Okay, well, so I'm not sure exactly where you guys are in that process, but whoever you guys do, settle on as far as the chair of your family engagement committee, and I don't know if Kevin, you're running that, or is it Beatles? If you might have that information, but just making sure that person gets looped in.
I will definitely send it to her. It was sent to, I think, just the leadership team at Howard and and the teachers that were that are on the Go team. It was just sent to us.
Okay. Yeah, but just making sure that, you know, the chair of the family engagement committee is looped in on whatever that looks like at the school level for your family.
Okay, Ms. Keenan, I'll send it to you.
Okay, so I have a question. I have a question about all. Okay, so the leadership team and the family engagement and communication advisory, that's different.
So no, actually this year the goal was to kind of streamline it a bit so that the, you know, at the school level, because we know you guys only have so many people and so, you know, many resources, and time is the most valuable of those resources. So we wanted to streamline it, you know, where we could. And so the thought was that you guys could identify, you know, your family engagement chair, and then they can kind of serve it, sit on that family engagement leadership team and serve as a liaison, right? Because, you know, we wouldn't want the Go Team's family engagement committee to be doing work that is totally separated from the school's family engagement leadership team as a whole. So the thought would be that everybody would be giving lift to kind of one family engagement plan. Does that, if that makes any sense, or if I'm being clear about that? And so that's why I was asking if you had your conversation with the family engagement office yet, you know, to go in detail about that. But I know that I think in some previous conversations I had with the person that does Grady for family engagement, that maybe as a cluster, you guys are looking at doing it differently, but that was the original thought, was that, you know, your Go Team family engagement chair would also sit on that leadership team so that, you know, you guys could work part and parcel.
Okay.
Ms. Gibson, a couple questions. So is that person still Courtney Garman?
So Courtney Garman is still in the family engagement office, and I know last year she was you know, in charge of the Grady cluster. That was one of her clusters. I haven't asked her about that this year, but I would assume so.
Okay, so and I also have some information that I can share with you, Jennifer, and the rest of the team about family engagement, because we did a lot of work and we started a lot of things last year, but I also just wanted to confirm that we still need a secretary for the family engagement committee. Is that still how that structure stands?
You don't necessarily have to like elect a secretary as far as like an officer position in the way that you would for your full Go Team, but you guys do need minutes from your family engagement meetings. So I know sometimes that secretary title, it can, you know, scare people away. So, you know, if you don't, you know, want to just have one person be dedicated to be a secretary, you could always, you know, rotate amongst the committee members as far as like taking minutes. We just want to make sure that whatever you guys are covering, you do have minutes related to that meeting, because it is, you know, kind of an offshoot of the Go Team. So we're still under those, we still have those open meeting requirements.
Right, it's a subset. And I was asking specifically because that is where we had issues last year with having kind of like that designated person. So that's good to know that we can kind of rotate. And
yeah, you can rotate just as long as you know, have some minutes to reflect what you guys are discussing and working on. That's all we're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So the other thing on the advisory is it can be the principal or a principal's designee. Is that right, Ms. Gibson?
For the cluster advisory?
No, for the, because we read that on
How about the family engagement?
Family engagement.
Right. And so we have it set up that way because, you know, at different schools, we have different, you know, people at the school level, as far as like school level administrators who are leading the family engagement efforts. So whoever, you know, on your administrative team is leading the family engagement work, if you want to designate that person to serve in the capacity on the team, that would be fine.
Just because, so Joyanne Tone, that's why she's stuck on here too. She's probably staying on here. Is that she's going to be the designee?
Okay.
And she got voluntold. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We had a conversation about how she's now the 6th grade assistant principal. Obviously, we want to engage kids right away, and the parents not the kids, but the parents right away in 6th grade. And so she is going to work. Plus, as you know, as you just heard, her MTSS work. So all of that work,
Okay.
kids that, with parents that we need to engage. And so she's going to be the designee.
Okay, that works. That's totally fine. And we understand that we're not, too particular about that.
So the other thing that we want to talk about, and sorry, Coach, is I'm going to make sure is that, and Miss Walker, it sounds like you're going to be on it still, which it's great because you were on it last year. Miss Keenan also is a committee member for the foundation. And we're going to also ask Susanna Roberts, because we saw in there that it can be a parent that is a non-Go team member, right? And we had some of those last year. So Susanna Roberts is the parent liaison for the Howard PTO. And so we feel like that with Miss Antone, as she is, working with 6th grade parents and kids, that Miss Keenan, like if there's anything that comes out of the family engagement advisory meeting, that she can obviously communicate that to the foundation. Susanna Roberts could communicate that to PTO. And I felt like last year, listening to Miss Walker and Miss Amoroso, there was a disconnect between those organizations. And so hopefully that we can have everybody on that same committee and then be able to share out for their different committees.
Are you all looking for someone else to be a part of that committee, like a community member as well? Or are you guys kind of loaded for that? Because there's a business owner who's really engaged with this and was like, hey, and then they even brought up family engagement. So I was going to say I'd bring her up as well. And this seems like something that might be needed for her. So I just want to see if that was open to bringing or inviting people or whatever the case may be.
I don't think we have a cap, correct?
No. Right, there's no cap.
All right, cool. Should I send you all the email or?
Please send it on. Send it to me. Then I'll communicate with Dr. Maxwell.
Definitely.
Okay.
I'll send it through the chat as well.
Okay. Let's move on to the principal's report.
Okay, so it is 6:05, and my principal's report actually had a lot to do with the targeted intervention plan. I felt like some of our discussion items kind of basically our report. So I'm just going to go with one item, not unless anybody has any questions, and that is that Mr. Londa Brown, who is a Spark principal for 7 years, and then our associate superintendent in the Grady cluster, is that she got named as the chief academic officer for Atlanta Public Schools. And so we're going to have, that was my direct supervisor. And I know that I'm sure you know her name and usually know the associate superintendent's name because they're involved in all of the cluster schools. And so she will be doing both jobs until January. And then in January, that job is posted right now. And so the person who is hired for that position will start in January. And so just kind of an FYI. Also, just to kind of go back, is that virtual back to school, which Miss Keenan reminded us of, is that we're looking to do that. So I know that that's important also, and we want to get that on that book. I'm sorry, that that date booked, and so we are going to be working on that and hopefully have that very soon.
Dr. Maxwell, I have two quick questions.
Wait, and then Howard traffic safety. So yeah, so Ms. Keenan.
Well, I had two quick questions on your report. So Dr. Herring's latest communication said the district is going to asynchronous Wednesdays in December. Is that correct? It keeps changing, but is the current new plan that we will have asynchronous Wednesdays in December?
I'm really trying to work on just staying the same. So I really do not want to mess with the schedule. I don't want to tell the parents that we're going to have a schedule switch. The staff, I'll tell you, the staff, correct me if I'm wrong, because we have some staff members here, is they want to continue with the same schedule. The Wednesday asynchronous day is about getting the teachers ready for January 19th, that second semester. The staff overwhelmingly have said, hey, we can do that on our Monday or Tuesday. Our days, once they're asynchronous, we can do that. So I didn't want to bring that up today. I'm glad you did, but because I'm working with Miss Yolanda Brown to continue with that schedule. So that's the hope.
Okay, and I don't remember my second question. We can move on.
So talk about the Howard traffic.
Yeah.
Yes, so just very briefly, we've been working with the City of Atlanta Transportation Department really since March on the traffic safety improvements for Howard. And the city, has said in the next month or so, everything should be complete. I'm hoping to get another update this week. The safety plans are on the Go Team website. There's an Excel spreadsheet that shows the different safety improvements for various intersections. The big ticket item is our flashing beacon, the flashing crosswalk light that's going to go in at Magruder and Randolph. Is that Randolph?
Yeah, Randolph.
Yes, Magruder and Randolph. And that will be really twofold. One, it'll help kids who are coming from the Beltline into the school because Magruder is the preferred Beltline exit point. And then also it will help hopefully slow down traffic on Randolph as well. Because, as anyone has seen, the speeding is really terrible on Randolph, and hopefully having that flashing beacon will really help slow that traffic down. GDOT they're providing it. They're paying for the beacon. It was supposed to be delivered last week to the City of Atlanta Department of Transportation. I don't know if that happened, but hopefully all of that is very imminent, that the actual hardware will be delivered, and then the City of Atlanta Transportation Department will actually install it. And that's it.
All right. I don't think we have any announcements remaining. I will announce that the next meeting will be Monday, December the 14th at 4:30. We did not have any community members sign up for public comment.
Mr. Abernathy.
Yes, ma'am.
Just really quickly, an announcement. The Budget Finance Committee has started back, and they will have, I believe it's next week, if I'm not mistaken, they have their next meeting. I'm part of that committee, so I'll report out whatever I find out the next time we meet.
Okay. Any other announcements? All right, we've reached the end of our agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Tanisha Poe.
Can I get this second? Second by Ms. Baker. All in favor, say aye.
I am.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Everybody have a good day.
Thanks, Coach.